Hi everyone, it's Liam Naden here, and welcome back to this week's episode of our podcast, Growing in Love for Life. Thanks a lot for joining me. Now, I find it very hard to believe in a lot of ways that we're up to episode 18. I remember back to when I thought about starting this podcast and thought, it's something I really wanted to do. I really wanted to share this information with people, but I can't believe how quickly the time has gone, and here we are at the 18th episode. But anyway, I hope you found it of some value, and what I've tried to do in each of these episodes is to focus in on a particular problem that people have when their marriage is falling apart or when it's not going the way they want it to go. So what I've tried to do is focus on a specific problem or issue that people might have been facing, and really try and give you some solutions to that problem so that you can see an immediate difference. I mean, I hope you've really got the message if you've been listening to these, that my whole approach is really about getting people results. It's not about just talking about things and maybe feeling a little bit better or feeling a bit inspired even or motivated. What it's really about is giving people practical ideas of things they can actually do, and they're what are going to create the result. And I guess I've personally been through, and I've seen other people go through it as well, obviously, where you might go to counselling, or you use a friend, or you read a book, or you do something to try and save your marriage, but at the end of the day it doesn't really involve much action. So you come away from, say, the counselling session, or you finish reading the book and you feel better, but then after a little while nothing has changed. And the key difference really is practical steps that you can take, and steps that you can take that are going to give you an immediate result, because you're not going to be very motivated if you don't try something and see an immediate result. It's going to make you want to give up if you don't see some results. So that's what I've really tried to do, and can I just say I've been really, really thrilled and a bit humbled actually by a lot of the emails people have been sending me. And it's really been wonderful to see that some of you out there in internet land and radio land have been able to use this information, and it really has made a difference. And I'm really grateful for every email I receive, because that's really what drives me and motivates me to do this, is to really help people to save and strengthen their marriage, because I personally know that having a wonderful marriage is the most important element of your life, and it's the thing that's going to have the biggest impact on not only your overall happiness, but your development and living to your full potential as a person. So it's been really great to get all the feedback, and please, if you do feel like dropping me a line, my email address is liam@growinginloveforlife.com. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear if you've got any comments, suggestions, or ways in which you think I can improve these podcasts, or ways that it's helped you. I'd love to hear your feedback. But the other thing that I've been getting a lot of, and I thought this gave me an idea of what to talk about this week for this podcast, because I've also been getting a lot of questions from people asking me about my Save Your Marriage Relationship Transformation Program, and asking me what it's all about, how it works, and whether really people are trying to decide whether it's something that they should do or whether it's something that's going to work for them. And the biggest difference between the podcasts and the Save Your Marriage Program is, whereas in these podcasts I can just give you a bit of a snapshot, a bit of a taster, if you like, on how to work on one small area in saving and transforming your marriage. What we really do with the Save Your Marriage Program is we get into huge depth, and we really get things sorted in your marriage. That's what it's all about. So that's what I want to do in this podcast, is tell you about the Save Your Marriage Program. So it's going to be a little bit different maybe to some of the podcasts we've had in the past. But I want to tell you about the program, and I want to not only tell you what it is, but also who it's for. And maybe I want to ask you some questions. Maybe you can see if it's really the sort of thing that you should be looking at. And how it works, what's in the program, and I've also got at the end I want to tell you about a special offer I want to give you as a listener to the podcast, as an incentive, if you like, to really give this Give My Save Your Marriage program a go, because the people who've been through it so far, we've had some amazing results. We've had people whose husband or wife have actually left, and they're on the way to coming back. And we've had other people who it's really transformed their relationship and their marriage and got their spouse from being antagonistic towards them and hostile and really not wanting to be there, to realizing that yes, they do love their spouse. They really do want to be in that marriage. They love the person that they first loved right at the beginning, and they want to be there. So I've had some really heartwarming stories, some great results, some great feedback. We've got other people who are working through the program, because it's not a quick fix. It's a 30-day program, but I'm telling you now too, saving your marriage is not a quick fix. I mean, getting into trouble in your marriage took time, didn't it? And it takes time to get things back on track. The good news is, with the right information and by doing the right things, you can get your relationship back on track a lot more quickly than the time it probably took to get it off the rails. So again, that's what we cover in the program. So let's talk a bit about what my Save Your Marriage Relationship Transformation Program is. And just to give you a little bit of a background, if you've listened to my first podcast and maybe read one or two of my books as well, you'll know a little bit about my background and how I came to really be developing all this information, learning it, applying it in my own life, and having the privilege and honor to be able to help other people by sharing this knowledge as well. And I really came from a place personally of deep pain, where I'd had 2 failed marriages, a string of failed relationships, and things were not going well in my life in general. And I realized that the main reason things weren't going well is because I'd completely messed up how to make a relationship work. And that's one of my main messages to you, is if things aren't working in your life, and then the place you need to look first is your intimate relationship. Because you can have everything going right in your life, but if you haven't got that right, you're not going to be happy. And furthermore, if things aren't going right in other aspects of your life, such as your finance or your career or your health, if you can get your relationship right, when you have the power, and I mean the real power, of not only yourself but working in a loving relationship with another person to help you and support you in your life, you'll just be astounded at what you can achieve. And in fact, many people have talked about this through the years, that one of the big driving forces of the most successful people is their marriage or their intimate relationship. Having another person who is, and it's not just 1 and 1 equals 2, 1 plus 1 equals 11 when you have a really powerful relationship. And I think that is absolutely one of the keys to real success and real happiness in life, is to have another person that you're in an intimate relationship with, who allows you to really drive yourself, who supports you, who encourages you, and who brings out the fullest potential in you. So that's why I think it's so important to have an amazing relationship. And I realized that I'd messed everything up in my life because I hadn't mastered that area of my life, that area of relationships. So I really made it an incredible focus and study, and I went and looked at people in successful relationships and in unsuccessful ones. I read an enormous amount of material. I studied everything I could, and I started to apply these things, because it's all very well to read it in a book and it's all very well to listen to it on a podcast. But it's only by applying things and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work and seeing what results you get that you can really start to put things together. And I did start to put it all together, and it had an amazing impact on my own life. I attracted and have maintained an incredible relationship. But I've also seen other people taking this information and really benefiting from it as well. So that's really where all my material, my content, my ideas really came from. And my Save Your Marriage program is, if you like, the one place that I've put not only all of the information that works, but I've put it into a format that is extremely powerful. And as I said at the beginning of this podcast, a relationship isn't a quick fix. You can't just listen to something once, try a couple of things, and have a transformed relationship. It really takes a little bit of time. But if you use if you give a bit of time to doing the right things, and you just do a little bit each day, you'll be amazed how quickly you get an absolute transformation. And funnily enough, that's not just in our relationships, but that's in our health. If you want to lose weight, if you want to have an amazing physical body, it's not about just going on a diet for 3 days, is it? And starving yourself. No, it's just doing a little bit each day, whether it be exercise and eating more of the right foods and less of the wrong foods. If you just do that a little bit each day, in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, you'll be a different person. So that's what the Save Your Marriage program is all about. It's a 30-day program. And how it actually works is, what I realize is that, as I just said really, you've got to do a little bit each day, and things build up on each other, and it creates a momentum, and it creates a snowball. And if you do a little bit each day, and you do the right things in sequence, it's astounding the transformation you can create. So I've deliberately made it a month-long program. I mean, I could have crammed it into a week. A lot of people come to me and say, look, my spouse is leaving me tomorrow. I don't want them to leave. So I avoided the temptation of trying to cram it in, because I know that doesn't work. You've got to take time to get the right things happening in your mind and in your life so you can see the results. So I've deliberately slowed it down and broken it up into a 30-day program where each day you're learning something new and you're doing something new. And some of these things, or most of these days, there's a little bit of time and effort involved, but they're extremely powerful, what you're actually learning, discovering, and applying to your own life. So that after 30 days, you are actually a different person, and your relationship is starting to be a different thing as a result. Because your relationship is going to change when you change. That's a key part of this program, which is why it very much focuses on you working on yourself. And that's one of the questions I get. Do my spouse and I need to do this program together? Well, one of the things I realized when I wanted to put together this information into a program was that for most people who want to save their marriage, they're in a situation where their spouse doesn't want to. Or maybe I should rephrase it and say not necessarily most people, but a large percentage of people who are in a marriage that's falling apart. Their spouse doesn't want to save it. Their spouse, their husband or their wife is saying to them, well, I love you, but I'm no longer in love with you. I'm not attracted to you anymore. Or worse, they've met someone else that they're involved in, and then they might be having an affair with someone else, or they might even just be having what we call an emotional affair, which I referred to last week. They could be texting somebody every day or being with them on Facebook and putting their attention with someone else. And what do you do in that situation? Or you have a husband or a wife who just doesn't communicate with you. If your spouse doesn't want to be there, then counselling and working together isn't going to work. So I knew that I had to come up with something for people who need to do it on their own, who, if you like, want to get their spouse back, or they want to hold their marriage together and they want to get their husband or their wife cooperating with them again. So this is specifically designed, this 30-day program, where you can do it on your own, and it's very much about you and who you are and what you are doing that is creating the result that you're getting in your life, including your relationship. So that's a very powerful part of it. You can, of course, do it with your spouse as well. It's designed you can do both, but it's very much designed for the people who are in a marriage where the other person just doesn't want to be there. So it's a 30-day program, and every day what happens is when you sign up for the program, you get instant access to the program, because there's no point, I realise, me mailing you things out and you having to wait a week to get it. You want to get started on it straight away. If your problems are severe enough, if your marriage is looking like failing, then you need to get onto it straight away. So when you sign up for the program, you get instant access to the whole program. And the way it's laid out is every day it's broken down into a day-by-day process. And every day there's an audio. And some of these are between 15-20 minutes long, where you listen to me talk again, and I talk about a specific aspect of saving your marriage and strengthening your relationship in a very orderly sequence, as I said. And what we do with that is that we then, as well as an audio, I give you some exercises to do. Now, these aren't difficult. They might be just to think about one or two questions, but they're very, very powerful in the sense that they get you thinking in a different way. And once you start thinking in a different way to what you're doing now, you're going to get different results. And that's the key to not only saving your marriage, but to creating a phenomenal marriage. So that's the next question, I guess, that people ask me is, well, is it right for me? Is it something that I should be doing? I mean, who is the program actually for? Well, it's called the Save Your Marriage Relationship Transformation Program. And I guess the key in there is to save your marriage. So the most important, or one group of people it's for, is if you want to save your marriage. If your marriage is either has fallen apart, in other words, your spouse has already left, or they're threatening to leave, or all your communication, your intimacy has all gone, and you can see that it's heading for divorce and for tears. And you don't want that to happen. And in so many cases, it doesn't need to happen with the right information. So that's who it's for, is if you want to save your marriage, and if things are looking really bad in your current situation. So it's a real, it's for desperate situations, if you like. However, it's also for people, and I've had several people who go through the program who are in this situation, where their marriage really isn't in danger of particularly falling apart, but it's just not a good marriage. There's just not the intimacy there. There's not the communication, the real love and passion that maybe the couple shared early on in their relationship, but just with time, it's all just gone, and they just lead sort of quietly unhappy lives, if you like. So you don't need to have your spouse walking out the door to do this program and to benefit from this program. You're going to get a lot of benefit out of it if you just want to create a phenomenal marriage. Because what I'm really trying to do to help, or my mission to help people, is not just to help you save your marriage and stop your spouse from walking out, but show you how to put together an amazing marriage. Because quite frankly, and I'll be blunt about this, if you can't create an amazing marriage, I don't think you should be in it at all. I think there's one thing worse than a bad marriage, and that's a mediocre marriage. Because at least with a bad marriage, you're forced to do something about it. And you're either forced to end it and then go and find someone else that you can actually create a good marriage, a great marriage with, or you're forced to work on it and improve it and do something about it. But the worst thing than that is just a mediocre marriage where people settle and they're not happy and they're not unhappy. But you're never going to know what the amazing joy of a truly phenomenal marriage is if you're not motivated to do something about it. Alright, so it's a series of daily lessons, as I said, which come as audios and with an exercise attached as well. And in addition to that, there are a couple of extra things as well. There are also some extra bonus materials in there, but one of the most powerful things that I've added, and there is a limit on these, but at the moment, and I'm still doing them, and I'm very much enjoying doing them, and they do, I know, make a significant difference. And that is, we have a private, personal telephone consultation. So that's where you and I get on the phone, and normally I suggest to people it's towards the end of the 30 days that they're working through, because if we do it early on, what tends to happen is people ask me all sorts of questions that are covered later on in the program. So really what we do is we get on the phone and we really drill down deep into your situation. And whereas the program is very much on its own designed that you can do it and you can get a lot of benefit out of it, and it's going to really open your eyes completely to what relationships and marriage are really all about, and to what your marriage is all about. But what we do with the personal consultation is, if you like, we fine-tune that. So we make sure that at the end of the 30-day period, you've really got a very clear focus on how you're going to move forward and continue to develop your marriage. And so these are great sessions, and they're very, very effective, and they last for about half an hour, and that's where we work on your situation personally. Now, of course, the other thing about the program is you have lifetime access to it. So if you don't complete the program in 30 days, it doesn't matter. And in fact, really, my mission for people is to use this program really for the rest of their marriage or the rest of their life, because there's so much that you can keep delving into and getting more and more out of. It's such a rich program. I firmly believe that. In fact, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet, but I've seen pretty well most of the marriage programs that are out there, and it is my firm conviction that what I've created here is really the most powerful one. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about what's actually in the program, how it's actually structured. And all of this, by the way, you can find all of this on the website, liamnaden.com/program. This will give you a complete, if you like, overview of the program, but I just want to tell you a little bit about what is in each section, because I've broken it down into a series of modules, and each of these modules, and which contain some of the daily sessions obviously within each module, they really build upon each other. So the first step, after we have a bit of an introduction where I really try and reframe, if you like, your thinking about what marriage actually is, and try to get you thinking about what you're trying to achieve, and why perhaps you've got into the situation you've got in already. So we do that in the introduction. But after that, the first step, the most important thing to do first, is to get over any hurt you're feeling. Because, you know, if your spouse has had an affair, or they're having an affair, or whatever it is that's causing the pain in your marriage and causing them to want to leave, or you want to split up, there's going to be a lot of pain and hurt there. And the first step is for you to get over that pain and that hurt. And also within this module is some tools that you can use to help your spouse get over their pain and their hurt. Because sometimes the reason they want to leave is because they're just so hurt by you. Maybe it's something you've done in the past. You know, some people on the program, there was one gentleman in particular who I recall he did the program because he himself had had a series of affairs. Well, and obviously that had caused hurt to his spouse and his wife, and she wanted to leave because she just couldn't stand the hurt anymore. So obviously he'd stopped having the affairs, but he couldn't get his wife to forgive him, well, she had forgiven him, but she couldn't get over this pain and the hurt, no matter what she tried. So this is a very powerful module to show both you and your spouse, or wherever the hurt is, how you can move past that. And it's got quite a lot of different things in it. One of the things it has is a very powerful visualization session that I've created, where I really take you into another place in your mind where you can see your pain and see your hurt from a different perspective. And it might sound a little bit new agey, but it's actually very grounded in psychology and in powerful where I've developed from peak performance strategies that are used by athletes and coaches to really change the way they think and to create peak performance by doing the right things. So there's a powerful visualization in that section, which I think when you try that, you will suddenly see that a lot of the hurt and the pain that you feel actually just goes away. It's a wonderful section, the healing the hurt. Then we get on to talking about what you really need and want. And this is so key really, because I've said it before and I'll repeat it here. There's really only one reason your marriage is breaking up. There's only one reason, for instance, if your husband or wife wants to leave, there's only one reason they want to do that, and that is you're not meeting their emotional needs. In other words, they're not feeling good around you. Because if they're feeling good, they wouldn't want to go. Pretty logical, isn't it? But the first step to knowing how to make them feel good is to know what they actually want. You know, do you know what they actually need to feel good? A lot of people don't. In fact, very few people do. And you might say, oh, well, they need $1 million and they need a nice house and they need a good job. No, it's none of those things. So this section, we go very deeply into figuring out what you need to be happy and what they need to be happy. Because once you know what you need to be happy and what they need to be happy, then all you need to do is find a process to go about getting it. But most people, I would say, in the world don't know what they want to be happy. And they say that, as I say, they're saying they need $1 million in the bank and a car. That's not what they need. They need their emotional needs met. So you need to know what your needs and the needs of your spouse are. And when you do that, you're in a very strong place to actually go out and meet them. Because as I say, once you know, and I'm being a bit repetitive here, but I think this is such an important point. If your spouse is walking out the door and then you can suddenly identify what their emotional needs are and then meet them, they're not going. You don't need to talk to them about it. You don't need to logically go through any process with them. They will want to stay. So that's what this module's about. Okay, so once we've defined what you really want and need and what your spouse really wants and needs, then we figure out how are you going to do that. How are you going to recreate an environment, if you like, which is what your marriage is, where you are both meeting each other's needs in such a wonderful way that you not only don't want to leave, but you want to be there, and you want to be there as much as possible, and you want to make it great. And another way of saying you want to be there with your spouse is you feel attracted to them. So this is the next module, which is all about rebuilding the attraction. And I'm not talking about physical attraction here, and I'm not talking about what you think is attractive. It's what your spouse thinks is attractive. And this is quite an amazing section because people don't realize, or very, very few people realize, in fact, most of the people who realize it, they don't know it consciously. They just happen to have struck on it. But funnily enough, they're the people who are in great marriages. But most people don't realize what their spouse is really attracted to about them. And as I say, it's not necessarily looks, it's your qualities as a person, your energy, the things that you focus on, the if you like, the habits that you have. All of these things there are certain of these things that are very, very attractive to your spouse. And what happens is when our marriages fall apart is, or should I say, what happens when we get together is we're doing those things that make us attractive. And gradually over time we stop doing those things. And that's the reason why our spouse no longer feels attracted to us, because we're not doing those things or being that person that was the one they were attracted to in the first place. So that's the next section, really, really powerful, is how to rebuild the attraction. And if you like, you're learning which buttons to push in your husband or your wife that's really going to make them emotionally attracted to you. Because again, that's what you've got to tap into, is their emotions. It's no good, and probably you've already tried this, you've probably tried asking them, please stay, and here are all the logical reasons why we shouldn't end our marriage and why you should stay. But that doesn't make any difference, does it? Because people operate on an emotional level. So you've got to be able to tap into their emotions to unlock the attraction factor, if you like. And that's what that's all about. And the next module is all about communication. Now this is very like attraction in the sense that most people, to be honest, don't know which buttons to push to actually communicate with their spouse, or in fact with anybody. And this is where the scenario comes where a husband says, well look, I bought her all these expensive gifts, I took her on a wonderful holiday, I told her how much I loved her, I tried to make her feel loved, but then she turned around and said, you don't make me feel loved, I don't feel loved by you, and I'm leaving. And they're totally mystified. And the problem is, in that situation, you've done everything that you think would make a person feel loved, and you think you've communicated love to your husband or your wife, but they haven't felt it. And that's what communication is all about. It's not about what you say, it's about what they hear. And by hear, I don't just mean hear with their ears, I mean hear with their emotions as well. So communication is so vital, and it's something that is so, if you like, misunderstood. And we really get very deeply into that. And I give you some powerful tools to really communicate. And I've had people do this who say they felt loved by their spouse, truly loved, for the first time in literally years. So there's some techniques there that are very powerful. So then, once we've worked on the rebuilding the attraction and figuring out what really makes you attractive to your spouse, and doing that again, and transform your communication, then we start to take things to the next level. So by this stage, you will have seen a big shift in your relationship, because your spouse is feeling emotionally connected to you, and they are feeling that you're listening to them. They're feeling, or that they are feeling that they're hearing what you say, if you like. And that's all fine and good, and that really is enough to, in most cases, really get your relationship back on track. But again, this isn't just about saving your marriage. Remember, this is a program about making it a phenomenal marriage. So we go next into what I call creating sizzling intimacy. And this isn't just good intimacy, this is amazing intimacy, and this is what really defines a marriage, isn't it, is the intimacy. So we go deeply into how you create amazing intimacy in your relationship. And yes, it also includes sexual intimacy. The sexual side of your relationship is so vital, I'm sure you'd agree. And then when we've put all that together, then we say, we've got the foundations here of a wonderful relationship again. How can we make sure that it keeps going? Because they recently did a survey that I read of people who went to counselling, and more than 50% said it made a little bit of a difference for a short while, and then we just went back to our old habits. And that's the key. How do you build these things into habits, things that you automatically do without thinking, but are the new definitions, if you like. They're just the way your marriage actually operates, so that automatically you're not only keeping that connection, that intimacy, that sizzling intimacy, and that wonderful connection and love together, but you're making it grow day by day. And a lot of these things come from the few couples I've seen who really know how to make their relationship better after 10 years than it was after 1 year. So we show you how to do all that. So that's basically the program in an overview of the program. So I guess a couple of things here, and I really want to encourage you to have a look at this and to do this program, because the podcast can only go so far. But if this sounds like something that you think would really help your marriage, and I know for nearly every marriage it will, then I really want to encourage you to have a look at this. And as I say, I've got a special offer for you, but just ask yourself these questions. Do you want to save your marriage? And are you willing to do whatever it takes? And maybe you've done a lot already, but are you really willing to just keep going and just maybe take the next step? And maybe this Save Your Marriage program is the next step. Maybe it's the thing that was really going to solve or get your marriage on track and back together once and for all. And the other thing I must ask you, are you prepared to commit a little bit of time each day to improve your marriage and improve your life? Doesn't need to be a lot of time, but are you prepared to do something every day to improve it? And the third question I want to ask you is, are you wanting nothing less than a great marriage? And as I said at the beginning, I think that's the only sort of marriage worth having. But would you really like to have a great marriage? Not just like one like the 98% out there have, that you probably all your friends and family who've got okay marriages. Would you like to have one of those amazing marriages where you and your spouse are just absolutely crazy about each other, and not only crazy about each other, but you have a depth of intimacy and communication that is so deep that it just gives you the feeling of peace, love and freedom to truly be yourself in your life, and to go in any direction you want to go in with total support, and really to make life what it should be, I think, which is an adventure. We're not here to just sort of quietly tiptoe along till we die. We're here to live life to the full as an adventure, and there's no better way to do that than if you've got somebody alongside you who's supporting you and working with you and growing with you. And that's what a phenomenal marriage is about. So if you're wanting to have a marriage like that, then my relationship transformation program is going to really help you do that. Alright, so what do we do now? Well, I mentioned that I have a special offer for you. And this is a very limited offer, and I'm only going to have it open for a few days, and normally this program is $997, and I've been told by many people, it's obviously a fraction of the cost of a divorce. It's also a fraction of the cost of a few counselling sessions as well. And a lot of people have told me, it could be 5 times the price and still be worth it, which is very nice to hear. But that's the normal price, and I have been running a special price at $397. But for the listeners, if you think this program is right for you, I encourage you to give it a go. And what I want to do is reward action takers, because the only thing that's going to change your marriage and your life is if you actually take some some action. So if you're an action taker and you're prepared to try this, and remember, this is 100% guaranteed, by the way. If at any time within 30 days you're not happy with it, you just let me know. If it's, if it hasn't given you the information you want or the result you want, you just let me know and I'll give you a refund. Absolutely no problem with that, because I don't really want your money. I want you to get a result. That's what really drives me. So normally it's $997. At the moment it's been $397. And that's for the complete 30-day program, access to everything, 30-minute consultation with me. But I'd like to make a special offer if you're an action taker, or if you're prepared to make a decision that yes, now's the time that you really are going to make your marriage a great one and save it from all the problems that it's facing at the moment. So if you're prepared to do that, I'm going to give you a special price just for a few days only, and that price is $347. So that's $50 off. There's also a payment plan as well, and I'm going to give you a special link. So if you've got a pen and paper handy, just write down this special link, and that will take you to this page where you can sign up for the special price of $347. And that's liamnaden.com/program1, and it's just the numeral 1, so it's program 1. liamnaden.com program 1. And I can't say how long that special offer is going to be available. It is only going to be a few days. So if you go there and it's no longer available, I'm sorry, it means it's filled up. But if we get too many people, obviously I really limit the number of people on this program, because I want to work with you. You not only get the free consultation with me, but you do get my email address, and you get unlimited email access to me as well. So I need to limit the number of people I work with. So if it closes a bit earlier, it's because too many people have signed up, and I, as I say, I just want to work with a few people. But I really encourage, life is all about greatness, I think, and being the best person that you can be. That's what I want to be with my life, is the best person I can be. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this, and one of the reasons I'm doing these podcasts, is it really helps me improve my knowledge, my communication skills, and all of those things. That's one of the reasons I do it, and I want that for everybody, because I think that is the only life that's worth living. And part of that is having a phenomenal marriage, a phenomenal relationship. And that's the only sort of relationship worth having as well, the only sort of marriage worth having. So if this resonates with you, I really want to encourage you, join the Save Your Marriage program. As I say, I've got a special offer for a very limited time just to encourage you. It's $347, and go to liamnaden.com/program1. That's the numeral number 1. So that's all for now. I'm really looking forward to working with you. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Next time we've got some more information to share, but go to liamnaden.com/program1 and let me help you really transform your marriage. So thanks again for listening. Look forward to talking to you soon, and bye for now.